Hello, children. Today I am going to take up this poem from your Flamingo, and the name of the poem is Keeping Quiet by Pablo Neruda. In this poem, the poet talks about the necessity of quiet introspection, the importance of self analysis, meditation, and all such things. Before I proceed further, I request you all to get hold of your Flamingo and read with me, because I'll be doing line by line explanation. So it would be beneficial for you if you have the book with you, read along with me, and then you will understand better. So let's get started. I'm reading the introduction on page number 95. So let's get started. Keeping Quiet by Pablo Neruda. Pablo Neruda, who was born in the year 1904 and he died in 1973, is the pen name of Neftali Ricardo Reyes Busalto, who was born in the town of Paralin, Chile. Neruda's poems are full of easily understood images which makes them no less beautiful. He won the Nobel Prize for Literature in the year 1971. Just 2 years before his death, he won the Nobel Prize for Literature. The last three lines are important lines, so I want you all to underline these lines, as this is the crux, the theme, the central idea of the poem. So please underline. In this poem, Neruda talks about the necessity of quiet introspection and creating a feeling of mutual understanding among human beings. So the poet here, or in this poem, he has talked about two things. First is quiet introspection. You do introspection quietly. And what is introspection? Introspection is inspection of your thoughts. Whether your actions are right or not, you are, just thinking about your actions in your mental frame. You're analyzing your actions, whether those actions are right or wrong, morally correct or not. So you're doing quiet introspection. And second thing that the poem deals about is creating a feeling of mutual understanding among human beings. This is the need of the hour. We need to understand the fact that we all are connected. We all, live in the same world, and we should live in harmony. We should live in peace. There should be a kind of mutual understanding between human beings. We should try to create an environment which is peaceful, which is joyous, which is happy for everyone, for us as well as people around us. Live and let live. There goes the saying, also, live and let live. So we should not harm others. We should try to create an ambience of happiness, peace, and all such things. So let's get started. I'm reading the first stanza on page 95. Now we will count to 12 and we will all keep still. The poet says, I will count up to 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, like I will count up to 12. And at the count of 12, we all will be still. Still means motionless. We all will stop our activities and will sit motionless at the count of 12. Now, many a times it is asked in the board examination, what is the difference between the beginning and the ending of the poem? So in the beginning, the poet has, involved everyone in this process of self-searching, self-analysis. He has used the word we, where he has included himself and people around him. He has asked everyone to do self-analysis. And if you observe on the next page, the last two lines, he says, now I will count up to 12. He has not used the word we, he has used the word I. Now I'll count up to 12 and you keep quiet and I'll go. And he says that I have tried to tell you the importance of self-analysis throughout the poem. I have given various examples. As a poet, I have done my part. I have done my duty. Now it's up to you whether you want to take up this practice, whether you want to analyze your actions, whether you want to meditate or not. It's up to you. I wanted to make you aware of the importance of keeping quiet. Now it's up to you whether you want to keep quiet or not. I have done my part, I'll go. So come back to the previous page, page 94. And he says at the count of 12, let us all be still. For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Sorry, I forgot to tell you about the poetic devices of the previous two lines. Alliteration is used. We will. Verb, we will. So same sound is repeated. So it's alliteration as well as repetition. We will, the phrase we will is repeated in the next line also. So it is alliteration as well as repetition. Let's move on to the second stanza. For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. The poet says, let us not speak in any language because according to poet, the language divides. If you don't speak my language, it means that you are someone different. Uh, People don't relate to the other person who does not speak the same language. For an example, if you are an Indian and you go to America or Africa or any other country, and there you find someone speaking Hindi, you will not have those ideas whether this person is from North India or South India. That person is speaking Hindi. You will feel connected to that person because he and you speak the same language. So this similar idea you had in the first chapter of your Flamingo, the last lesson, where the Germans, they imposed their language on the French people. Linguistic chauvinism, if you remember. So what happened there? The Germans, they tried to destroy the identity of uh, the people of Alsace and Lorraine, the two districts that they captured, and they wanted to destroy their identity by destroying their language. So language divides, language unites as well as divides. So in this poem, the poet says language divides us because if you don't speak the same language, you are someone different for me. So he says, let us not speak in any language. Just we should be just human beings. We should understand each other's feelings rather than focusing on the language or the words, all such things. We should just be human beings. Let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for 1 second. The poet is not asking you a lifetime of silence. He is asking to be quiet just for a few seconds, just for a few minutes. So he says, let's stop for 1 second and not move our arms so much. And let us not move our arms so much. Here, the poetic device that is used is pun. And where it is used in the word arms. So any word which has two connotations or more than two connotations, more than two meanings, that word is called a pun. So here the poetic device used is pun in arms. So what are the two meanings of this line? The poet says, and not more arms. First, arms refers to the arms of your body part. Let us not get physically you know involved, or we should not be fighting with each other. uh, we should not be having any kind of tiff with anyone. That is the first connotation, the first meaning. And secondly, he says, he wants to say, let's not move our arms. Arms here refers to the weapons also. For weapons also we use arms and ammunition. So we should not use arms, we should not use weapons against each other. If you must have observed, when people fight, they move their arms a lot. They try to tell the other person that the other person is wrong. They try to prove the other person wrong, and they say that you did this to me, you did that to me, you are wrong, I am right. So they are using their arms a lot when they are having a physical fight with someone. Secondly, he says, let us not use weapons against each other. Third stanza, he says, it would be an exotic moment. You are asked a question, what does the word exotic mean? The word exotic means rare or wonderful. That moment when everyone in the world is quiet, that moment will be a wonderful moment. That moment would be a rare moment. That moment would be an exotic moment. So the poet says, so here it refers to the moment when everyone is quiet, silent. It would be an exotic moment without rush, without engines. People will not be in a hurry, they will not rush. You know, when you rush, when you are in a hurry, you cannot meditate because you have deadlines, you have targets to meet. So, in that scenario, you cannot meditate. So, the poet asks us to be quiet, to be still, not get involved in any kind of activity. So, he says, let us be still and let us not be in a hurry of any kind. And he says without engines. Here engines refer to the technological development, the advancement. So he says, let us stop all the machinery, all the engines, because somewhere we have also become machine like. A machine lacks human qualities, no sympathy, uh, no empathy, so he says, uh, let us stop the engines, let us be human beings first. And that moment when everyone is quiet, when everyone is self-analyzing, everyone is involved in the process of self-searching, meditating, that moment would be an exotic one. It would be a wonderful moment. And then he says, we would all be together. Alliteration, poetic device that is used here is alliteration. We would all be together. In that moment of silence, when everyone is just still, in that moment, everyone will be together. They will be together in silence. They will be just human beings. There would be no American or no Indian, no Australian, no Sri Lankan. Everyone will be together. They all will be just human beings. So we would all be together in a sudden strangeness. Now, when everyone in the world is quiet at the count of 12, that moment would be a sudden moment, because at the count of 12, you are suddenly quiet. Everyone is quiet. So that moment is a sudden one. So suddenly you are quiet now. So that moment would be a sudden one. And it would be strange also. Obviously, it is strange to think that the entire world is quiet at the same time. So that moment when everyone is introspecting, when everyone is meditating, that moment would be exotic one, that moment would be strange one, and that moment would be sudden. Now the next stanza. In the next stanza, the poet says that man has done more harm to himself in the process of making money. In running after materialistic pursuits, he has ruined his own health and his own life. And the irony is that he is not aware of his folly. He is not aware of his foolish act. So he says, Pablo Neruda in these lines says, fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales. See, I think we are the only species who have, like uh, spoiled the air, water, and land. We have aeroplanes flying the sky, polluting. We have seen the destruction around us on land, and even we have not spared marine life. So the fishermen, those who go in the deep sea, those who go in the cold sea, that fisherman, when he will realize, when he will introspect, when he will meditate, he will realize his foolishness, that he should not be harming whales. We're harming innocent beings, those who have done no harm to us. We are harming them, we are killing them. So this is wrong. According to Pablo Neruda, it is very wrong. We should stop these activities, and we should stop going to the cold sea hunting whales, killing whales. So that fishermen will realize this thing, and they will not go in the cold sea. See, now here that fisherman is doing uh, two things. First, he is killing innocent lives, he is killing innocent fishes, he is hunting whales. And second is, in the process of hunting the whales or killing the whales, he is putting his own life in danger. When he is going the cold sea, he is putting his own life in danger. but he's unaware of the dangers that he's going to meet in the cold sea, because he's so obsessed with money, he's so obsessed with materialistic things, that for him money is more important than his own life. So when that fisherman will stop, he will meditate, he will do self analysis, then he will realize that it is a bad thing and he should stop doing it. And the second example that poet gives us here is of a man, and the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. And the person or the man who is gathering salt, because day and night he is involved in the process of gathering salt, and he has never spared a minute's time to look at his hands, which are hurt, injured, wounded. So that man who is just gathering salt and salt, when he will stop all the activities, he will do introspection, he will look at his hurt hands, and then he will realize that in the process of making money, he has wounded himself, he has harmed himself. So that man will also stop doing this thing, and he will meditate, he will do self analysis, he will realize that money is not everything. Sometimes we need to stop, we need to, self do self analysis, all such things. And children, here in the last line, allocation is used: his hurt hands, her, his, her, hurt, her hands. Allocation, repetition of the same sound words, same sound. Allocation as well as transferred epithet, hurt hands. Now, what is transferred epithet? Transferred epithet is also a poetic device when we use an adjective before a noun and it modifies the meaning of noun, which is logically not possible. Now, what did ma'am say? Ma'am said, when we use an adjective before a noun, I would like you to read the lines: hurt hands. Now, here, hands is a noun and hurt is adjective. So, we have used an adjective before noun and it has modified. Like, we have understood what the poet wants to tell us. He wants to tell us that the man has hurt himself in the process of making money. But now, logically, what is not possible is that the feeling of hurt or that pain is not restricted to his hands. When a needle is pricked in your hand, or you are wounded, or you feel some kind of pain in your hand, that pain is felt by the entire body. It is not just restricted to hands. So we have understood the poet's point of view, but then when we say hurt hands, we are restricting that thing to hurt hands only. So it is transferred epithet. Okay, so let's proceed to page number 96 and see what the poet says. In this stanza, on page 96, the first stanza, the poet says, those who are engaged in various kinds of wars, they will understand that there are no winners in wars. There is actually no victory in war. Why? Because your so many near and dear ones are killed in war, your friends, relatives, family members, they are also killed in war. So even if you are a winner, uh, you have you don't have those people around you to celebrate your victory with. So you are all alone, and when you are alone, you don't feel like celebrating. So war is a dangerous thing, war is a bad thing. So he says, those who prepare green wars. So such people who are engaged in various wars. The first one he says green wars. So green wars here refer to war against nature, deforestation, cutting of trees, mining, damaging nature. So it refers to the environment or the environmental degradation, damage that we are doing to the environment. So such people will also stop these activities when they will meditate, when they will do self analysis, they will realize their folly, and they will stop the green war. Second is wars with gas. You remember those concentration camps, and gas was used to kill people. So wars with gas, wars with fire, victory with no survivors. Oxymoron is used, two opposite ideas. You have victory, but with no survivors. So, what is the use of such victory where you cannot celebrate your victory with your near and dear ones? They are not there, they're dead. So, who you will celebrate the victory with? As I told you earlier, there are no winners in war. What they will do? Such people who are engaged in these various kind of wars, what they will do? the next line says they would put on clean clothes. Clean clothes, alliteration is used. Poetic device is alliteration. They would put on clean clothes. They would put on clean clothes in the sense it is symbolic. It is not that they are wearing dirty clothes right now. No, it means that their clothes symbolically are stained with the blood of innocent people they have killed. Their clothes are soiled. They are soaked with the blood of the innocent human beings they have killed in the wars. So such people who initiate war, who are engaged in wars, they will stop these activities. They would put on clean clothes. Their conscience will be clean. And what they will do? So such people, they would put on clean clothes. Secondly, what they will do? They will walk about with their brothers. Then no one will be an enemy for them. They will realize that everyone is their kind of brother. uh, they will have a bonding. They will love the other person as his own brother. So they will walk about with their brothers in the shade. Shade here refers to peace, relaxation. Shade gives us peace and relaxation. Doing nothing. In that moment when you are introspecting, when you are meditating, you are not doing anything. In that moment, you would put on clean clothes. Your conscience will be clean. You will understand that no one is your enemy. You will walk with your brethren in shade, and you will do nothing. So far is clear to you? Now, here the poet says doing nothing. When he says doing nothing, he wants to clarify himself, and he says that when I say doing nothing, it doesn't mean that you stop all the activity, the mental activity as well as the physical activity. He says, no, I want you to be very clear with what I say, and let us read his idea of doing nothing in the next stanza. He says, what I want should not be confused with total inactivity. The poet says, I don't want you to be totally inactivity. Now, what does total inactivity mean? It means sum total of your personality, your mental as well as your physical activity makes it total activity. So he says, I'm not asking you to be totally inactive, mentally also inactive, and physically no. The poet is asking you to be only physically inactive, but mentally some thought process, some meditation, some self analysis should go on. So some activity is going on in your mental frame. So if we say total inactivity, it means you are inactive mentally, and you are inactive physically also. And the poet says no, because such a person who is mentally as well as physically inactive is as good as a dead person. So he says, what I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Life is what it is about. Life is life. It will go on. It never stops for anyone, whether you do meditation or not, whether you do self analysis or not, whether you are engaged in some kind of activity or you're not involved in any kind of activity. Life is unaffected. Its momentum will go on. Time will fly. That moment will go on. Life is what it is about. You cannot dictate life, you cannot dictate time. Okay, so life will go on. I want no truck with death. So here, when the poet uses the word truck, don't imagine that bus or truck or that vehicle in your mind. Simply, you can replace the word truck with another word, that is business, dealings. इन हिंदी से यूसे कोई वास्ता नहीं है मेरा डेथ से, कोई लेन देन नहीं है, कोई वास्ता नहीं है. आई हैव नो बिजनेस विद डेथ. आई हैव नो deal with death. I don't want you people to be dead, because if you're mentally and physically inactive, it means you're dead. And the poet says, no, I'm not asking to be dead, because being mentally and physically inactive means dead. I want no truck with death. He's saying, I'm not propagating the idea of total inactivity, because that would mean that you are dead. And I'm not taking you towards death. I am teaching you how to live life in a more meaningful way. So he says, I want no truck with death. And then in the next line, he makes a wish. He says, if we were not so single minded, काश हम इतने single minded ना होते. If we were not so single minded. We are single minded. We are focused about one thing only, that is money, materialistic pursuits, the things that gives us pleasure, or how to make our life more comfortable. We are focused on such things. We want to make our life more and more comfortable. So he says, if we were not so single minded about one thing, about money, if we were not so single minded about keeping our lives moving, we should not have this thought how to keep our lives moving, because life is what it is, what it will go on. So stop adding more and more luxury to your life. Stop adding more and more comfort to your life. Start adding more and more value to your life, because that is more important. That is more important for your mental health and your physical health also. So he says, let us not be so single minded about keeping our lives moving. It will move on. Life will move on. Even if you add on such things, add on such props, then also it will move on. If you don't add, then also it will move on. And for once could do nothing. And just for a second, we should not do anything. Doing only physical activity he talks about. He says, let us not do anything physically. Let us not move our arms so much about and for once could do nothing. Perhaps now in that moment of silence, what will happen at the count of 12, when the entire world is quiet? What will happen? That moment when everyone around the world is quiet, that silence would be a small one or a huge one. That silence would be a huge one, because the entire world is involved, the entire world is quiet. So he says, perhaps a huge silence in that, like you must have observed, when you are very very troubled, you are anxious, you are angry, you have all those negative thoughts, you are feeling very very troubled, you go to a place of worship, maybe a temple, a gurdwara, church, a mosque, you can go anywhere. So when you go there, there is, peace. All of a sudden you feel peaceful, because that ambience around you is so peaceful. People uh, go to these places with a lot of faith, and they have peaceful feelings there. They're happy there. So in even if you individually you are feeling troubled, but when you go at such a place, you automatically become peaceful. So after some time, after say about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour, you calm down. So in that moment of silence, when everyone is quiet, perhaps or maybe that moment will also bring about some changes in your thought process. He says, perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness. According to poet, we human beings are sad. uh, Maybe we are unaware of this sadness, we are not aware that we are sad. You can say, ma'am, no, I'm not sad, I'm very happy. But according to poet, because when you intentionally or unintentionally harm others, your soul cannot be at peace. Really, mark my words. Only when you do good deeds, only when you think good of others, then you are a peaceful soul. So poet says, we are troubled souls, we are unhappy souls, but when we will be connected in that huge silence, some transformation will be brought about in our behavior also. He says, and for once could do nothing, perhaps a huge silence might interrupt. Here, the word interrupt has meaning that must be different to explain, or difficult to explain. He says might interrupt. If you replace the word interrupt with the word replace, instead of interrupt, just underline it, and above the word interrupt, just write replace. He says that moment of silence might replace this sadness. Our heart can have just one emotion at a time. Our heart can be happy or sad, or you can have a feeling of jealousy, you can have a feeling of love. There are a number of emotions, but your heart feels one emotion at a time. It's not that two things emotions are there, two three types of emotions are there. So the poet says, our heart is already full of sadness, even if you are not aware. we are sad souls. So in that moment of silence, that huge silence will replace the sadness from our heart. So when that sadness is removed from our heart, it is empty. That huge silence will push away sadness from heart, make some space for the feeling of love, mutual understanding, happiness, joy, peace. Unless until you have, you know, sorry, a tenant who is very very stubborn. He is not leaving your house, after so many reminders, so many warnings, he not leaving. So he is occupying that that room. So you cannot bring a new tenant because there is already one tenant in that room or in that house. So for the new entry, you have to make this tenant leave the door, go outside. So your heart is a room where the feeling of sadness is there. The poet is asking you to be quiet so that that huge silence, it will push away the feeling of sadness from your heart, make some space for the new feelings. And these feelings will be the feelings of love, happiness, joy, mutual understanding. Then he says, might interrupt this sadness. Now, why we are sad? You may say, what could be the reason of our sadness? The poet tells us the reason of our sadness in the next two, three lines. He says, of never understanding ourselves. We are sad because we have never understood ourselves. हम कभी अपने आप को समझ ही नहीं पाए. We don't know how we will react in a certain situation. A statement may provoke you. That same statement you may ignore. That same statement can make you happy. You know, you don't understand yourself. Why? Many a times we say to ourselves, "I don't know why I do that." We have not understood ourselves. Sometimes we react in a certain way. And the poet says, perhaps in that moment of silence, this sadness will be replaced by a feeling of mutual understanding, happiness, love, and joy. And then he says, why we are sad. He says we are sad because we have never understood ourselves, of never understanding ourselves, and of threatening ourselves with death. We have threatened ourselves with death. We have put our own life in danger. If you remember the fisherman going in the cold sea and the man gathering salt, those who are involved in different kinds of wars, what they have done, they have put their own lives in danger. So we are sad because somewhere we have put our own lives in danger, threatening ourselves with death. We are destroying nature, but actually we are not destroying nature. We are destroying ourselves because we cannot survive without this beautiful environment, the nature. Then he says, perhaps the earth can teach us. The last and second last stanza, he says, perhaps we can take lesson from the earth. Perhaps the earth can teach us, as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. How earth can teach us? There are various examples around us where, like we have this realization that at present that thing seems to be dead but later on proves to be alive. I will just give you an example to explain. uh, Take an example of a seed. If you put a seed on your hand, then it seems very lifeless thing. It seems as if there is no life in this seed. है ना? So that lifeless seed, when you bury it in soil, you put some water, and after some time, a sapling will grow out of it. Then it will be transformed into a huge tree. But initially, at the beginning, we just had a look at the seed and we thought that it is lifeless. But when we put it underground, we buried it, then some transformation took place in the moment of silence. In that moment when there seems to be no activity, but some activity was going on which was invisible to the eyes. So perhaps the earth you can have various other examples like a cocoon. If you see a cocoon, you will not have this thing that there is some life inside it. It is lifeless to you. but after some time a beautiful butterfly comes out of it. There's so many examples around you where the thing seems to be lifeless, but later on it proves to be alive. In the same way, when you are sitting still, when you're sitting quiet, motionless, and you are meditating, the onlooker may think, the person who is looking at you, the onlooker may think that this person is doing nothing, he is wasting time, he is sitting idle, uh, he is, doing a useless thing. But you are mentally involved, some mental process is going on, and you are judging your own actions. And then judging your own actions will bring about a realization that you are going in a wrong direction, you need to stop, you need to rectify those things. And then this transformation will be beneficial for you and for the people around you. So we can learn these things from nature, that when everything seems to be dead but later proves to be alive. In the same way, people may think that you are dead, you are quiet, but later on they will see the transformation in you, they will see the changes in you, that you have evolved into a beautiful soul. Okay. So the poet says, perhaps the earth can teach us as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. Again, oxymoron is used, dead, alive, opposite words. And now I will count up to 12 and you keep quiet and I'll go. The poet says, I have done my duty as a poet. I have tried to give you all reasons why we should stop, waging wars against each others, why we should stop damaging our environment, why we should stop rushing and, gathering salt and fishermen going in the cold sea. I have told you through various examples, the poet says, I have told you through the various examples that we need to stop, meditate, do self-analysis. And he says, I have done my part, I have done my duty. Now I leave everything upon you. I'll count up to 12 and you keep quiet. Now you do the introspection part, you do the meditation part. Now you keep quiet and I will go. I hope you have understood the poem, and do write in the comment box whether you have understood the poem or not, whether it's clear to you or not. And don't forget to subscribe, share, and comment. Thank you so much for watching. Bless you all.